Chris, so I'm pulled in your Instagram video that you recently posted just to give you kind of a comparison and a good connection to like on the water paddling that I usually try to get people to think about on the erg too. Um, so I'm doing your right side from that Instagram video, but we'll also take a look at your left in a second. Um, but let's go back to first. I think the first thing we talked about on the other video was um, like your arm relaxation through the recovery. I know you can't see it from obviously this side, um, but you'll kind of notice a similar thing when you get to around your knee um, for your paddling videos. Kind of similar to what I was talking about when you saw my comparison video with like the wrist being a little bit more loose. You'll see this like when you're coming up in your recovery, you see there's like that slight little bend in it. I usually know, like, some people don't think it's a big deal because it's like, oh, I can still relax with my hand completely straight, right? I mean my forearm through my hands being completely straight. But you can see, like, I think natural flow when you're like most relaxed, like there's that little bit of tiny little bit of bend in that wrist there, and your arms are quite a bit. They appear quite a bit more stiff through that recovery there on the erg. And then also like that lower arm, you can clearly see that the recovery you have a slight bend, and again I think it gets back to what I'm talking about. I know we don't have a front view of you paddling here, but I think when that water forces your lower arm to come up a little bit, it actually forces your outer shoulder, this outer shoulder, to kind of lift up, and your kind of force you to go through a more neutral zone of your body. In my opinion, you relax just a little bit more doing that, and so I actually actively discourage people from just going straight back on the erg, because over the course of a 2-minute test, you actually hold a little bit more tension doing that. And then the other thing I was talking about before, with like how high your setup is, and I'll bring in your other side in a second, but you can very clearly see that, like, before you plant, like your arm is aimed a little bit lower, right? So right now, when you get back to the front, you actually have that arm aiming up a little bit. And so this kind of goes into, I know it sounds like, oh, we're talking about rope slack in that other video, but like I think it goes hand in hand with like how you would actually paddle too. Like this arm should be aiming, I mean, a lot of times when I'm going hard, maybe I'll be aiming straight ahead, but I never have it where it's aiming up. And then I think so the reason that also helps is because if you aim a little bit lower, the rope is typically a little bit more engaged when you start the pull or you start your catch, instead of having this little bit more region for like slack as you're going into that catch. So you'll notice in my videos, like I'm actually starting almost at this point, and a lot of times that, I mean, not only is it better for being able to get into a good solid catch sooner on the erg, but it also coincides more with how you would actually paddle. Let's see. Okay, so the last thing that we talked about was like body angle. Okay, so I'm gonna highlight that here. So usually, I actually usually like to use like from the vertical position. So I'm gonna draw a line. Hopefully this is like kind of straight up and down. And I think in the other video we saw it was about 45 degrees. So hopefully when we do this, yep, okay, it's about 45 degrees here, right? So on the erg, you're kind of leaning almost 45 degrees. into your stroke there. Or I measure it based on like how far you've leaned forward into your catch. So once you've gotten your catch and you're starting the meat of your pull. So same here, like you can, as long as the paddling technique is pretty solid, you can usually trace that to like the point in time where the paddler no longer leans forward and is any motion is just going back, right? So if we, oops, I guess you can't do this. Okay, so shoot, I need to do a new line here. Okay, and then if we connect to your ear, all right, so so this is much closer to the angle that I usually see most paddlers going at least like higher level paddlers on the water. There are some faster paddlers that will even do a little bit less, but I think generally this is the angle that I was seeing with mine. I think the lines that I drew on the previous video was a little bit shallower than this, but I've been telling people like 10 degrees on your setup, 10 degrees on your extension, and then 10 more degrees into your catch. And that results in about 30 degrees of lean. And that seems to be what you're doing here when you're actually paddling too. So like your natural range of motion where you're probably feeling the most powerful is probably around there. And I would say that your erg video on the left there, like getting into that point is a little bit hyperextending. And so probably when you try to squeeze a lot of power, when your body's in a little bit more of an awkward position, can often result in, possible strains or injuries like that. So hopefully that helps, like tying it into your video. And I know I had mentioned that I would bring in your other side. But yeah, you can see here, like very clearly again, when you get into that extension in front, it is aiming a little bit lower with that lower hand. And I know that the GoPro has a slight curvature, but like even just looking at it, you can tell that like just looking at distance between your shoulder, and the boat, and the distance between your hand and the boat, like you can tell that it's a little bit pointed down. And again, like we can do similar lines through here. I always do connecting ear to hip and then through here. So on the left, you lean a little bit, just a little bit. Wait. Oops, I did the wrong. We're doing this and this. Okay, so pretty similar lean on both sides, but it's definitely like that extra 10 degrees that you're doing on the erg, I think is putting you a little bit outside your like strongest power zone area. So I think on your left, like your left side paddling, it seems like you exit just a little bit sooner than your right side. I think on the right side we were seeing that your top hand here gets to your knee and your lower hand actually exits around your hip, but your left side seems to be exiting a little bit earlier. Okay, anyways, 2 longish videos, so hopefully it's not too boring.